We've all had those days when we just want a quiet meal, away from the noise and the weight of the world. That's all Jason wanted when he stepped into the luxury steakhouse that evening. Just a corner table, a good steak, and a bit of silence. But sometimes, silence gets broken by the wrong voice. And that night, it came from a waiter who had no idea who he was talking to. And the consequences of his actions were so high that he couldn't afford with his mere salary. Before we continue, to our loyal viewers, thank you for being here. Your support is what keeps these stories alive and reminds us why kindness, respect, and humility still matter. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because every week we share stories that reveal how one moment can change everything. The restaurant sat like a glass jewel in the center of the city, sleek, expensive, built to impress. Outside, the night glowed with soft rain, the kind that made streets shimmer and stretch reflections of streetlights across the pavement. Inside, the steakhouse buzzed with quiet luxury, the kind of place where the clink of a fork was louder than laughter, where reservations were booked weeks in advance, and where every customer seemed to think their name carried weight. Jasonstatham stepped in quietly, no entourage, no flash. Just him, a dark jacket, and the calm presence of a man who didn't need attention to command it. He was recognized often enough in public, but tonight he hoped for peace, a corner table, a rare steak, a moment to breathe. He didn't notice the waiter at first, but the waiter noticed him. His name tag said Caleb, mid-20s, hair slicked back too carefully, the kind of smile that only appeared when tips were big. His eyes flicked up and down Jason's jacket, shoes, watch, calculating value, not person. "Good evening," Caleb said flatly, blocking Jason's path before he could approach the host's stand. "I'm afraid the dress code here is a little stricter than that." Jason paused, one brow lifting. "Then what?" Caleb gave a tight smile. "Then that." He gestured vaguely at Jason's outfit, clean but simple. "We cater to a certain clientele, you understand." Jason studied him for a long second, expression unreadable. "You think I do?" Caleb's smirk widened. "I think maybe you'd be more comfortable somewhere less formal. There's a cafe down the street, real cozy." Jason didn't respond immediately. He could have corrected him, could have said his name, watched the man's face drain of color, but something in him held back. Instead, he said evenly, "Is that how you treat everyone who walks in here?" The waiter shrugged. "We like to keep standards high." "Standards," Jason repeated, the word like gravel on his tongue. "Right." He glanced past the man toward the dining room. A host was talking to another table, too far to intervene. The low hum of jazz wrapped around the air. Couples in tailored suits and glittering jewelry chatted under the soft amber lights. Everything gleamed, polished and perfect on the surface. Jason took a slow breath. "I'll wait for the host," he said quietly. Caleb's tone cooled further. "Sir, without a reservation I can't seat you. We're fully booked." Jason's voice stayed level. "That's all right, I'll wait." The waiter's smile tightened. "You're not hearing me." Before he could finish, another voice cut in. "Caleb." A woman in her 40s, sharp in a black suit, approached, the restaurant manager. Her tone was calm but laced with authority. "What seems to be the problem?" Caleb straightened immediately. "No problem, ma'am, just explaining the policy." The manager turned to Jason and froze for half a second. Recognition flickered, followed by a slow, measured smile. "Mr. Statham, I didn't realize you'd be joining us tonight." Jason nodded once. "Evening." Caleb's smirk fell. The manager gestured to a corner table near the glass wall overlooking the city lights. "Your usual table's ready if you'd like. I'll have them send up your preferred bottle." Jason gave a faint nod, watching the waiter's face pale by degrees. "Appreciate it." He walked past without another glance, but the quiet in the waiter's chest was loud enough to echo. From his corner table, Jason could see everything, the staff moving like clockwork, the whisper of napkins unfolding, glasses polished to invisibility. It was a dance of control, but under it all there was something else: pride, pretense, hierarchy. He'd seen it before, in every high-end place that forgot kindness wasn't on the menu. The manager came by again, polite and cautious. "Everything to your liking, sir." Jason nodded. "Always is." She smiled and stepped away. He poured his own water, watching the city beyond the glass. Somewhere below, taxis weaved through rain-slicked streets. A couple argued at a crossing. A busker's guitar echoed faintly from an alley. The world felt bigger from up here, and lonelier too. When his steak arrived, it was Caleb again who brought it. His hands trembled just enough to make the silverware clink. "Your meal, sir," he said softly, no trace of arrogance now. Jason looked up at him. "Thank you." Caleb swallowed. I didn't know." Jason cut him off gently. "You didn't need to." The waiter froze, unsure how to respond. Jason set down his fork, eyes steady. "Let me ask you something, Caleb," he said. "If I wasn't who I am, if I really was just a man in a jacket looking for a meal, would you have treated me any differently?" Caleb opened his mouth, then closed it. I thought you." "You thought wrong," Jason said quietly, "and that's the problem, isn't it?" The young man's throat worked. "I'm sorry, sir, I didn't mean." Jason leaned back, gaze calm but heavy. "You did. You meant it when you said it. The trick is learning why." For a long moment, there was silence between them. The low jazz hummed on, the rest of the diners oblivious to the quiet lesson unfolding at the corner table. Then Jason picked up his fork again. "Go on, you've got other tables." Caleb hesitated, nodded, and walked away, slower this time, shoulders lower. By dessert, the tension had settled, but the lesson wasn't over. Jason noticed a couple seated 2 tables away, older, maybe in their 60s. They were dressed simply, clearly not regulars in a place like this. The man reached for the menu, and Jason could see his hands shake just slightly. Caleb was their waiter too. Jason watched as he approached their table. He didn't say anything at first, just observed. The waiter's tone was different now, softer, careful, patient. "No rush," Jason heard him say. "Take your time. The ribye's excellent tonight. I can ask the chef to make it a little smaller portion if you prefer." The older man smiled, visibly relieved. "That would be wonderful, thank you." Jason's gaze lingered, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. People can change if they're given a reason to. He finished his meal quietly, paid, and stood. But before leaving, he stopped near the manager's station. "Everything all right tonight, Mr. Statham?" she asked. "Fine," he said. "One thing, though." "Of course." He nodded toward Caleb, who was wiping a nearby table. "Keep him. He'll learn." The manager blinked, then nodded quickly. "Of course, sir." Jason reached into his jacket, pulled out a folded envelope, and handed it to her. "For the staff fund. Everyone works hard, make sure they all see a bit of it." Her brows lifted slightly, recognizing the weight of the envelope. "Thank you, sir." Jason nodded once, gave the room one last quiet glance, and left. Outside, the rain had stopped. The city breathed differently, cleaner somehow. As Jason walked to his car, his driver stepped out to open the door. "Everything all right, sir?" Jason smirked faintly. Better than all right, just gave someone a second chance. Inside the restaurant, the manager opened the envelope and froze. Inside wasn't just cash. It was a handwritten note on embossed paper with the Steakhouse's logo. It read, "To the team, remember, everyone who walks through these doors deserves respect. You never know who's feeding you your next paycheck. J.S." She smiled a small, knowing smile, and tucked it into her blazer pocket. Caleb, meanwhile, finished cleaning the table, unaware of what had just happened. But something in him had already changed. When he passed by the window and saw Jason stepping into the car, he paused just for a second and whispered, "Thank you." Jason didn't turn, didn't wave, didn't need to. The lesson had already landed. That night the staff gathered for their closing meeting. The manager stood in front, holding the envelope Jason had left. She didn't read the note aloud, she didn't have to. Instead, she said quietly, "Tonight, we were reminded that this place isn't about who can afford it. It's about how we treat people, all people." And as they divided the generous tip Jason had left, a quiet warmth spread through the room, the kind that money couldn't buy, but respect could. Outside, Jason's car disappeared into the night, the city lights catching the faint reflection of a man who never needed recognition, just decency. Because for Jasonstatham, power wasn't about owning the restaurant. It was about owning the moment when someone learned what humility really means. The next morning, the steakhouse was quieter than usual. No music yet, no chatter, just the sound of silverware being set and coffee brewing in the back. Caleb came in early. He hadn't slept much. The echo of his own words from last night, "We have a dress code, sir," kept playing in his head. He hadn't just insulted a customer. He'd insulted the man who owned the building. The manager found him polishing glasses at the bar. "Morning," she said simply. He looked up nervous. Am I fired?" She gave him a long look. "No, you're not." His breath left him in one shaky exhale. "Why not?" "Because he said not to." Caleb blinked. "He what?" The manager smiled faintly, pulling a folded note from her pocket, Jason's. She didn't hand it to him, but her eyes softened. "He left this for us. Said everyone deserves respect and a second chance." Caleb swallowed, shame and relief mixing in his throat. "I don't deserve that." "Maybe not," she said, "but you've got it. Now do something with it." Later that day, when the restaurant opened for lunch, Caleb found himself serving a small family, 2 parents, a little girl in a pink jacket. Their clothes were plain, maybe a little worn, and their English was halting. Tourists. A week ago he might have brushed them off. Today he didn't. He knelt beside the table, lowering his voice to make sure the child could understand. "Don't worry," he said gently. "We'll make something special for you. You like fries." The little girl grinned and nodded hard. Her parents smiled too, grateful, surprised. When he walked back toward the kitchen, the manager was watching from the corner. She didn't say a word, just gave him a small nod. Sometimes redemption doesn't come in applause. It comes in quiet moments when no one's supposed to be watching. That night, as the dinner crowd thinned, a sleek black car pulled up to the curb again. Caleb froze when he saw who stepped out. "Jason." The man himself walked through the glass doors, unannounced, as if he hadn't just turned the restaurant's hierarchy inside out the night before. He nodded once at the host and sat down at the same corner table. No reservation, no fuss. The manager appeared seconds later. "Mr. Statham, back so soon." Jason smiled faintly. "Didn't get dessert last time." She smiled back. "Would you like the menu?" "Surprise me." Caleb didn't expect to be the one to serve him again, but the manager gestured for it. It was a test for both of them. He approached the table slowly, holding his notepad like a shield. "Good evening, sir." Jason looked up, calm as ever. "Evening, Caleb." The sound of his own name coming from Jason's mouth hit differently this time. Respectful, level, human. Caleb straightened. "I wanted to say." Jason stopped him with a raised hand. "You already did, yesterday." "I did." Jason nodded. "You treated that family this afternoon, I saw." Caleb froze. You saw that?" Jason smirked. "I like to check in on my investments, especially the ones that can still turn around." Caleb exhaled shakily. "I just didn't want to be that guy again." Jason's tone softened. "Then don't be. Doesn't take much to change, just takes choice." For a moment, neither said anything. The weight of the lesson hung between them, heavy but hopeful. The dessert arrived, a simple slice of chocolate cake. Jason took one bite, then gestured toward Caleb. "Go on, have some." The waiter blinked. "Sir." Jason pushed the plate halfway across the table. "You've had a rough couple of days. Sit for a second. You won't get fired." Caleb hesitated, then sat at the edge of the booth, awkward and unsure. He took a small bite. Jason chuckled. "Good cake, isn't it?" Caleb nodded. "Yeah, really good." Jason leaned back. "You know, I didn't build this place for people to feel small. I built it because people deserve good food, good company, and respect, no matter what they look like walking in." Caleb looked down. "I forgot that part." Jason shrugged. "Now you remember, that's what matters." When the check came, Jason scribbled something on the receipt before standing. Caleb picked it up as soon as he left. There was no tip in cash this time. Instead, under Jason's signature, one line was written in sharp ink. "Next time someone walks in, serve them like they own the place." Caleb folded the receipt carefully and slipped it into his pocket. He'd keep it there for years. Word spread, as it always did. Not about Jason being there. He didn't want that kind of attention, but about what he'd said, what he'd left behind. Staff started treating people differently. The tone shifted. The snobbery faded. The restaurant became known not just for its food but for its heart. Regulars noticed it first, the warmth, the patience, the small human touches that didn't exist before. And when reviews started rolling in, people mentioned it again and again. The service feels genuine. They treat you like you matter. The irony. That was worth more to the restaurant's reputation than any five-star critic could ever write. Months later, Jason returned one final time. He didn't sit in the corner. This time, he walked through the kitchen doors instead, where the staff froze mid-shift. "Mr. Statham," the manager said, startled. Jason smiled, just checking in, making sure the place still feels right. Caleb was there too, wearing a new name tag, head waiter. He stepped forward, nervous but proud. "Everything's running smooth, sir," he said. Jason looked around. The staff were laughing quietly between orders. The air felt lighter. "Yeah," he said, "looks like it." Before leaving, he turned to Caleb. "You ever think about management?" Caleb blinked. "Me, no, sir." Jason smirked. "Think about it. You've already learned the hardest part, humility." That night after closing, Caleb stood by the window again, looking out at the city. The rain had come back, tracing silver streaks down the glass, the same way it had the night Jason first walked in. He reached into his pocket and pulled out that folded receipt. The ink was smudged from time, but the words still read clear. "Serve them like they own the place." He smiled. Sometimes the right person walks in at the right moment, not to ruin your night, but to rewrite your story. As for Jason, he never mentioned the incident in an interview, never posted it, never bragged about it. But every time someone new came to dine, the manager would quietly tell the story to the staff. "Remember the man who was told he didn't belong here? He built this place so everyone would." Because that's Jasonstatham's kind of power, not in fists, not in fame, but in the kind of respect that changes a room without raising a voice. And long after he left that night, the steakhouse stayed different, not because of who he was, but because of what he left behind. Because real class isn't about what you wear. It's about how you treat people, especially when no one's watching.